to try and give a bit of an emotionless analysis and appraisal of where West Ham stand at the moment, in terms of the ownership, in terms of David Moyes, in terms of where we've come from, where we should be, and where we are now. And when I say emotionless, around match day is always the worst time to do it, because everything's very black and white. Not just because we played Newcastle, by the way. Whereas I think probably there's a lot of things in assessing West Ham at the moment which are in the middle, and it's just not the best time to do it. Certainly when you're disappointed with a draw that we haven't played particularly well against Newcastle and so on and so forth. And also what I want to do is I want to take out of it, when appraising it, any sort of mistrust or historical dislike I might have for the ownership of West Ham, because already you're sort of going in with an agenda. I don't want an agenda, I just want to look at West Ham and where we are now precisely. Because when I look at it, and when I look at what's happening now, it appears that we're now sort of coming into a more realistic position. And I say this off the back of Manchester United just winning against Leeds, I think it was 4-2, off the back of a sort of resurgent Arsenal, and also having watched Tottenham play Manchester City and win. Remarkable game, by the way. Absolutely remarkable game. And you've got to take emotion out of it. Take my dislike of Tottenham out of this for a second, and just appraise where we stand against Tottenham without the whole West Ham-Tottenham rivalry. Because the fact of the matter is that actually Man United, Arsenal and Tottenham do basically most of the time finish above West Ham. Now, there's been an anomaly over the last couple of seasons, and I do think it's an anomaly. And I think the anomaly is that West Ham have been operating above where they would be normally, and I think a lot of it is because of COVID. Let me just go and explain that. I think some teams suffered because of COVID, not just the lack of fans in stadiums, which really hurt some clubs, but I also think if you combine that with the fact that there was this massive break in football, and some utilised that time to their benefit, some clubs, and some clubs didn't really utilise that downtime at all, basically, and they came back worse as a result. I'll give you two examples of clubs that really, really suffered because of it, and that was Liverpool and that was Sheffield United. We could go into the small detail, but that's just what happened. West Ham, we just coped well, and a lot of that praise has to go down to David Moyes in terms of the running of the team. I also think there wasn't a lot of controversy around the club. We didn't furlough our staff, that we weren't trying to take money off the government in a way that, for instance, Tottenham did and stuff like that. But I think we did all right. And what it enabled us to do over the last 2 years, 18 months, is propel ourselves up there to a position that possibly was a little bit false. Now, don't get me wrong, it wasn't false in terms of our league position, because actually, during those seasons, when we were fourth, we were the fourth best team at that point. When we were fifth, we were the fifth best team. We finished sixth, we were the sixth best team. We qualified for Europe, and rightly so, we did it on merit. But I think we have to appreciate that we did that at a time when other teams were struggling. And I've already listed a load of them already then. Having looked at the clubs, at Arsenal, at Man U and at Tottenham, they're coming back a little bit. They're starting to recover from all the rest of it. And something's got to give. So we now find ourselves in a best of the rest situation. If you look at all the teams at the top, it's pretty much been the Sky Sports top six and then Leicester City. We're trying to be Leicester City, and I think it's disappointing that we've dropped down a little bit, and I think we've sort of got used to the fact that we were in and amongst it, and now it feels quite disappointing, now it feels quite disheartening. I think the thing for me is, whilst that is all mitigation, and whilst they are all maybe good reasons why we're there, because we just don't have the spending power of those big clubs, I think also it's disappointing for all of us because actually we had a chance. Even given all of those excuses, and they are excuses, it's just mitigation, they're not lies, that COVID genuinely happened, football stopped, there were no fans in the stadium, all that happened. But because of that, we found ourselves in a position where we were elevated briefly up there. And that was an opportunity for us to think, OK, we're going to improve now. And here's where the caution comes in, and here's where the criticism of David Moyes would come in here. David Moyes is still trying to play his long-term game and his long-term strategy. David Moyes didn't adjust to when he was at the top. He's still, let's say David Moyes has got a 5-year plan. I don't know what it is, but let's just suggest it's a 5-year plan. Everything's done slowly, isn't it? what I think is he didn't get to that point and think, oh, we've got an opportunity here. Let's move the plan more quickly. Because I think it's hard to know without interviewing him, without asking him. I think he would probably believe that he can still progress as much as he did, but he'll do that next year or the year after the year after. Well, the position we were just in, which is the ability to maybe you win a European trophy and get Champions League football, might not ever come around again. The position we were in 2 months ago might never happen again for West Ham. It was a special moment, and I feel like we're letting it slip away. What I don't want to do is throw the toys out the pram because we've let it slip away. Because I've seen a lot of calls for the sacking of David Moyes, and I still believe that David Moyes is the best manager that West Ham have had in a long, long time. I've done videos this season saying I think he will probably end up better for West Ham than Harry Redknapp, and certainly the best manager since John Lyall. And it is unfortunate that even if you look at Gio's video yesterday, Gio had to start with a disclaimer, saying, before I talk about David Moyes now, I just want you to know I'm not calling for him to be sacked. I mean, honestly, I cringe every time I hear him do it. Not that I think he shouldn't do it, he has to do it. And the reason he has to do it is actually borne out even in the comments of this channel over the last couple of days. Somebody actually said on the comments, on the one where I said Moyes was furious with Ben Rama. Somebody actually said on the comments, this is totally predictable. You're going to be calling for David Moyes to be sacked next week. Now, I knew it. Totally predictable. Not only have I not said that, and as I say, the 95% of you that watch this channel regularly will know I also don't believe that. I'm not calling for him to be sacked, but we're in, and far from it. I want him to serve out his job long term. But unfortunately, we're into people who get so emotional that not only do I basically getting hung out to dry on comments I've not even made. So basically, this guy, and I don't want to post this thing up there because I don't particularly want him to get a load of abuse or anything like that. Not that you lovely lot would abuse him. You all showed what classy operators you are when Ron sent his letter in and we did the World War II video. But I've never said that about David Moyes. What he did is he invented a comment in his head that I had said, I want David Moyes sacked, attributed it to me, then told me that comment that I haven't even made was predictable. He's basically having an argument with himself. And this is why you have to do the disclaimer. Because actually, it almost doesn't matter that I might have done 5, 10 videos supporting David Moyes. It doesn't matter. Actually, somebody can just assume that you mean something else. David Moyes is the best manager we've had for quite some time, and make that absolutely clear. But just because of that doesn't mean you don't call out things when you see them. I think we are in a position at the moment, West Ham, that's totally reflective of where we are. And I think we've got a manager who is rightly at our level. I think when we've had managers before, like Avram Grant, to use an example, they're below our level. And I don't say that by thinking West Ham are the best club in the world, but we can do better than that. I think, let's look at the top managers. I think that Pep Guardiola is the top coach, if you like, the top manager in the world in that sense. I think Klopp runs him close. There's an argument that maybe even Klopp is better because he's not had that budget. I don't know this off my head. It feels like Liverpool's net spend is nowhere near as big as Man City and Man United. So I think what Klopp does is quite miraculous, actually. And again, you've got to take the emotion out of it, whether we like Klopp, whether we don't. Actually, just assess him as a football manager. He's a bloody good one, isn't he, really? And then when I looked at Tottenham the other day, I looked at what Conte was doing. I look at how he's got rid of, just ruthless, got rid of Dele Alli, bad egg, don't want him. Got rid of the people he didn't like. And then I was watching, I think it was their number 30, Bentancur, is that his name, something like that? I just looked at him and thought, wow, now there's the purchasing of a player who fits perfectly in the system. I was really impressed with what I saw. But I was really impressed with how tactically sharp they were. You know, sometimes we criticise David Moyes for being a little bit of a ditherer. I don't just think it's in the transfer market. I think sometimes he dithers tactically, makes his substitutions 10 minutes later than we might think he might have made them. Conte's really sharp. He just does it instantly, reacts instantly, doesn't he? And I think you're talking about elite level managers with those three. You can, if you want to add Ancelotti or whoever you think is also an elite level manager, add them to that list. I think David Moyes isn't one of those, but I think he's in the next group just below. If they're all Champions League managers, I do think we've got a UEFA manager in David Moyes. I don't mean in terms of European football, but you know what I mean? I think he's the next rung down. And I think that's as good as we're going to get. So calls for David Moyes to be sacked, which I haven't done, by the way, or even remotely suggested, I think they're look, everyone's got the right to a footballing opinion, right? And that's it. If you think David Moyes should be sacked, then absolutely fine. I don't agree with it. I don't think we get anyone better. I think we find ourselves in a situation where possibly Everton have been in. Everton didn't openly want to get rid of David Moyes, but at the time when Manchester United came calling, there was a lot of Everton fans said, well, do you know what? Actually, we don't mind. We think football's a bit boring. We can't move on. We can't move any further up with David Moyes. Now, I don't know this to be the case, but I suspect that since David Moyes has left, Everton's net finish in terms of their league position would probably be lower than when David Moyes was there. And they've been through some managers in that time. My point is, Everton have tried manager after manager after manager after manager, and they still haven't found one as David Moyes. And let's not assess Frank Lampard just because he's won a couple of games and say he might be. Once you've been there 2 or 3 years and you're better than David Moyes, fine. But actually, the grass hasn't been greener. And I suspect if West Ham did the same thing, we wouldn't suddenly find ourselves... Look, at the moment, we are a team that the best, almost in and amongst the best of the rest. We don't go, but we can challenge to get one of those European places. Probably the Europa Cup or the Conference League. That's probably our level. But I don't think for a moment that a new manager comes in and suddenly pushes us up to start competing with Chelsea, for instance. And as I say before, we've only done that in the last couple of seasons because COVID and the football scheduling and everything else skewed with the points totals and just messed with everything else. Realistically, that's not our level. Now, to get up to that next level, and this is the next point in trying to assess where we are as a club, you have to then look at ownership. And there's something else which I want to address on here. It's a weird one with this whole Křetínský thing. Because as it stands at the moment, we have no evidence at all that Křetínský is any better or worse than Golden Sullivan. We just don't know. I think the assumption is, and I see this, the assumption is that he will be better. I read an article the other day about how Křetínský's ready to spend his money in the summer. Brilliant. I hope he does. We have no evidence for that. What we have is evidence of Křetínský having part ownership during one window and no money was spent. Now, here's where we get to the blame game again. That's why you have to take the emotion out of it. Maybe, just maybe, there was money there for David Moyes to spend. David Moyes dithered and he couldn't get it spent. He didn't provide the list of players early enough. That's one. The other one is maybe David Moyes did provide a list of players and the board didn't have enough money to get them over the line. Let's use an example. Let's use Núñez at Benfica. I think that was his name, wasn't it? As an example. Let's say David Moyes did provide them with the name. And it wasn't left until the last minute. There was a week or so before. And we put in 50 million and they turned it down. David Moyes is probably thinking, well, hold on. I provided you with that name. All right, they turned down 50 million. Why didn't you bid 60? Why didn't you bid 70? If honestly, if that's the player I want, why weren't you able to get the deal over the line? That's one way of looking at it. The other one, as I said from the other side, which David Moyes might have been dithering. We just don't know yet. And that's really the truth. Everything else is just an opinion. Maybe the board are tight. Maybe there was loads of money available. Maybe David Moyes didn't highlight and pick out any players. Maybe he did. Again, the truth is probably somewhere in the middle, but it puts us in a position whereby we just don't know what's going to go on with this Křetínský thing. And I think I'm a little bit cautious with it. And when I say cautious, I'm a little bit cautious to hail Daniel Křetínský as the next Messiah and the guy that's going to rescue our club. I just don't know. We don't know. We don't know what he's going to do. So where do West Ham stand as a club at the moment? Well, I think we stand as a club who are on have a long-term strategy. I think we are a club who are doing better than we traditionally do, which is to yo-yo. Ever since I've been watching West Ham, we yo-yo. Relegated, promoted, relegated, promoted. 2 or 3 seasons in the top league, relegated. And so that's how it's gone. I feel, I don't know, I should have checked it out. This is the longest period we've had in a top flight without the threat of relegation. Feels like that anyway. So how are we doing as a club? Well, better than we were before. But actually, in terms of the last 2 years, it feels like we're doing pretty crap at the moment. It feels like we're sliding down the league. And it feels like we're sliding down the league because reinforcements weren't made. So we got a manager who's building things slowly. We didn't grasp an opportunity that was there, but actually I think that the future is relatively healthy in terms of us being a Premier League club. Am I confident in the next season or two we're going to suddenly become a Champions League club? No, I really don't. But I do think David Moyes will have us operating in the top half of the table. henceforth. I've struggled to see this season that we're going to, I hope to be proven wrong, that we're really going to do anything in the Cup or in the Europa League or even sort of get over 60 points in the league. Because, and here's another thing, talking about what people say, I think we look tired. And a lot of people have said in the last few days, Gonzo, stop saying that. Stop saying that we look tired. And that's something I don't really get. I understand people. You can turn around and you can have the opposite argument, say, no, we look fresh. So that's the only opposite argument, right? The whole thing is, don't say it, stop saying it. I don't understand the insistence that to stop saying something that is your opinion. Because I do think we're tired. I think we're tired in body and I think we're tired in mind. I think we look fatigued. I think we lack a freshness. I think that's part of why our attacking play is so stifled. And it is stifled. I see lots of people making arguments that actually our attacking play against Newcastle wasn't as bad as it appeared. I think it was. I think they handled us pretty easily, to be honest. I don't think we tested the goalkeeper. I don't care how... But people have got different combinations. I thought Antonio, Fornals and Benrahma were pretty poor. As I said in that video, I thought Bowen was the only one that looked okay. Other people think Fornals was better than the others. But you know what? Actually, I think we're arguing over such small detail here. I don't think the goalkeeper had a save to make in the second half. Something like that. I think they were completely inactive. Almost both goalkeepers in the second half, actually, probably. So I think our attack is stifled, and I think a lot of that is because we lack ideas. I think it's not only a freshness in terms of having fresh legs. I think we probably missed a trick not sending the players away on international break to go and do some warm weather training, sending them off to Portugal or whatever, or to Dubai in the sun or whatever it may be. I think the uplift that you get from a new player coming in January, Lingard coming in was actually massive last season, not just because Lingard came in and he was such a good player, but actually he's a bubbly, effervescent type of character, and he gave a lift to everybody around the club, I think. And I think we missed that, and there's a staleness. I think there's a staleness in terms of... I'm sure you can look at the numbers and you'll say, actually, but we're doing running a reasonable amount of distance. But actually, in terms of us looking sharp and being... And having fresh ideas, I think we just look stale. We look like a team who have played our first teamers on too many games this season, and it's not going to be better. And because of that, I struggle to see that we're going to do as well as we did last season. And that is disappointing. And it is disappointing, but and particularly with David Moyes, as I say, for the reasons that he didn't, because he was a little bit slow and he didn't bring anybody in, or blame that on the board or whoever you want to blame it on. The other thing where I think David Moyes has been a little bit slow is I noticed his comments after the Newcastle game were very much that West Ham had... He said, something's wrong. Something's not wrong with the players. I've tried to deal with it individually. I'll have to look at something else. We're not able to score goals. As David Moyes was saying it, there's problems there. Now, again, the dithering is not just the transfer window. I think he's slow on that. He's slow with the substitutions. He was slow to ascertain that. I think that's been evident to a lot of us for a while now, a month or two, hasn't it, really? So I'll be interested to see what he can do, but I'm not sure he's quick enough at it to do anything about it. And I do have concerns for the January transfer window, which is, we know we've already addressed it in a video on this channel. There are 8 or 9 players either leaving, out of contract, or retiring next season. So we're already thin this season. So my concern is that we aren't able to recruit at a faster pace than we lose players. So you lose 8 or 9 players, you need to recruit, well, probably 8 or 9 players, don't you? I am sure that we will lose that number. I'm not sure that... I've not seen any evidence. It's like the evidence for just Křetínský's money. I've not seen that evidence yet. I've not seen the evidence that David Moyes can bring in a lot of players all at once. It's going to be interesting. It's an interesting time for West Ham, but the truth of the matter is, in terms of the appraisal, I don't think it's doom and gloom. I think there's a lot to look forward to, but I think it is going to be a slow burner. It feels more disappointing at the moment because at the time of recording this, I'm pretty sure whatever we've slipped down to it's hard to say, but we're not going to. We're probably not 5th, 6th, or whatever. As Gio alluded to, by the time we get to next week, because of Wolves and Leicester and games in hand, we probably are going to find ourselves down in 7th or 8th. And that, to be very realistically, is where we were. We are not the swashbuckling team we were at the start of last season. It's caught up with us a little bit. And it's hard then, I think, as fans to sort of raise yourself and to get excited again when you don't see much encouragement for the team. And I don't. I don't think so. The encouragement is largely recently. I know Declan wasn't particularly good against Newcastle, but you're almost having to get your encouragement at the moment from Bowen and from Rice because everybody else is flagging a little bit. Can David Moyes mix it up and get the team to go again? Can we have a second wind? I do think we were in a bit of a lull. I do think we're in a bit of a slump. I do wonder if we can push on and go again and put a little 10-game undefeated run together or something like that as, 5 wins, 5 draws. I don't know. I don't know. I suspect not. But hopefully you can just give us for the rest of the season something to enjoy because it's been a hard watch, hasn't it, recently? And I was unlucky. I say unlucky, might have dodged a bullet. Was unlucky that the trains, the Great Western Railways, weren't running for the Newcastle game because we were on our way up there. But actually, if I looked at it, I mean, it must have been a hard watch. It wasn't. It's not nice, and I think that's all we want. We want that. We want to be able to be entertained by the team. They're not entertaining us. They seem low on goal threat. We're not banging on the opposition's door anymore, and it feels like. I think it feels like a death of 1,000 cuts at the moment, but I don't think it's terminal. I think things will get better. Let me know what you think. I just wanted to put something a little bit more balanced out there because, well, for the two reasons here, a lot of people calling for David Moyes' head. Not loads, but enough. Just go back and read the comments. You'll see them there. And then other people. So some people are saying everything is terrible. Some people are saying everything is fine. Don't criticise the team. And I think the truth is somewhere in the middle. Anyway, let me know what you think. I'll be back tomorrow with a sort of, a news roundup. We'll have a bit of a laugh and hopefully pick things up a bit.